Okay guys, so today we're gonna talk about quadratic equations. Okay, so what is quadratic equation? First, let me introduce you quadratic equation. Quadratic equation is an equation, an equation obviously, written in the form ax squared plus bx plus c equals to 0. And the reason it's called quadratic equation is because you have a 2 for the x, a power of 2 for the x. So these kind of equations is called quadratic equations. Okay, so for example, let's say when a equals to 1, so it's just 1x squared, right? Plus, and when b is equal to, let's say, 3, so 3x, plus when c is equal to minus 9. So here, watch carefully. The base of these kind of equations is always plus sign and plus sign. But if you have a constant of a negative number, you're going to change that plus sign to a negative sign. So what does that mean? So this is plus minus 9, right? So this whole thing is just equal to minus 9, right? So we can just say minus 9. Minus a 9. And quadratic equations always equal to 0. Okay. And plus, if a is equal to 1, you can ignore the a because it's just x squared, right? 1x squared is same as x squared. Okay, enough with what is a quadratic equation. Let's get into how do you solve a quadratic equation. Alright, let's see. So how do you solve a quadratic equation? Let's say we have an equation. Let me think of it. Okay, got it. 6x squared plus 11, plus 11x plus minus 35 is equal to 0. Okay, so to solve for this equation, you have, a way of factoring this thing. It's called foiling. So foiling is basically, okay, this is very interesting here. I'm going to talk about FOIL. F-O-I-L, right? FOIL. What does this stand for? F stands for first. O stands for outside. I stands for inside. And L stands for last. Okay. So this is the way of factoring. But we had a already factored equation. What we're gonna want to do is we're gonna want to do the reverse thing of it. So what does that mean? What I mean is you see, I know the way it is factored, but we want to kind of separate it. We don't want it to be factored, because you see, if you know, so when you factor it out, it will look something like this, like two numbers multiplied to equal 0. If you get two numbers multiplied to equal 0, according to the law of zeros, which we will get into maybe in a couple next video here. So according to the laws of 0, I'm gonna teach about it later. So maybe next video, yeah. Anyway, according to the law of 0, two numbers multiplied equals 0. Either one of those is 0 or both of them is 0. Okay? So that means you just get, because you will end up with a form that x to the some kind of power plus or minus Actually, let me write the plus or minus this way. Plus or minus a constant. And we get x to the some power plus or minus might be another constant, b. So that means you see that x, when you know that x is equal to, like x plus a number is equal to 0, you can solve it. So it becomes very clear here if you know one of them is 0. So you want to get into that form. So how? Okay, so if you think about it, foil contains first, outside, inside, and last. You know that the first part is obviously this, because this is the only number that contains like x to the second power. So y must be x to the second power, because you know that the first place of these factored things, the O contains x. So there is at least 2x multiplied to each other. So that is x squared. So because this is the only place that contains x squared, that means this is only going to be first. So this place is the first part, okay? So these two dudes are like the same thing. And also, you know that the minus 35 is equivalent to the last. Why? Because you see, the last part is the only part that involves constant. And 35 is a constant, obviously. If it involves any variable, there is no division. That means the variables will not cancel out. There's only multiplications here. So that means the variables will not ever cancel out. So the only way that there's constant is there is never variables. Okay? I think I explained that pretty well. If you don't quite understand what I'm talking about, you can just rewatch that place of video. Okay? So let's continue here. You see, so that means you know the first, you know the last. That means the middle part that involves some kind of variable times x is just outside and inside combined together. Because if you see, outside is xn times c, inside is x to the n times b, so you can actually combine these things. So that's that makes a lot of sense here. Okay, so enough of explaining. Whew. Let's start solving it. Actually, I want to change this equation a bit, cause you know, this is kind of like a very difficult equation for a starter to solve. So maybe I'm gonna change 6x squared to x squared, and 11x to 2x, and minus 35 to just minus 3. Okay, so now it's easier to solve. You know, two numbers multiplied together, you get x squared, and that must be x and x, right? So there's no concern. It's just x times x. So let's get straight into it. X times x, right? You know the first part is x times x. And you also know the last part. Like two numbers multiplied together, it gets minus 3. So like that means it's gonna be positive and negative. Cause if it is positive and positive, it's the same sign, you get a positive answer. If it is negative and negative, the same sign, but it's both negative and negative produce a positive. So that means that the only way this can be is the signs are positive and negative. So that means the signs are plus and minus. So okay, so the signs are plus and minus, and also because You see here, x and x, they are the same. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's a plus here or if there's a plus here. Okay. So the reason I change it a bit, if there is an invisible 6 there, if there is a 6 here, the signs does matter. So that becomes a little complicated, and we're gonna explain it later. So anyway, they are different signs, and it doesn't matter where you put the signs, and that they multiply together gets -3. And also, you know what? You know that the outside, that means the place you see here, x times bx times bx plus or minus cx. These things, bx plus cx, you get 2x. So that means b plus c get 2. And you know that b times c, these two multiply to each other, you get -3, and you plus each other, like add each other, you get +2. So, which number can work is actually -1 and 3, right? You see, -1 plus 3 is 2, +2, right? And -1 times 3 is -3. So that's perfect. So we just kind of solved the equation here. You know, it is -1 and 3. Okay, so everything becomes easy here. This whole thing is equal to 0, right? So either x plus 3 is equal to 0, or x minus 1 is equal to 0. So there is always two solutions for a quadratic equation, unless it is something squared, which we will talk about later. So they have two solutions. Either x plus 3 is equal to 0, that's when x is equal to -3, or x minus 1 is equal to 0, that is x equals 1. Okay, so we just solved this equation. Okay, it's a very long story here. Let's talk about, let's review how you solve a quadratic equation. Hello, Corny the courier. Oopsie, wrong house. First, you separate it. Okay, let me write it in another way, like in the bullet point way. So, first, you look at the equation, and then you factor it out. It's kind of like factoring out. You factor it out. And then what you do, the second step is you get a form. You get like these. So x plus c, that's a plus b, so you get this. And then you know that either this equals 0 or this equals 0. So then you can just solve for x. And guys, keep in mind here, if it is a quadratic equation, it always has two solutions, unless it is something square when you factor it out. That means it's like x plus c times x plus c. That way, there's only one solution. But most of the time, there is two solutions. So you gotta watch out. Okay, so that's all for today. Guys, this is all for today. I hope you liked my video. Please subscribe to my channel, Corny Academy. Thank you very much.